Again, it's a Redskin.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video I'm going to show you how to build a simple password strength checker in Python. So we're going to build a simple tool that will automatically evaluate a given password based on certain criteria like the password length, the diversification of the characters, the uniqueness, and so on. And it's going to then combine all of these things into a score. For example, 6 out of 9, and this score then indicates the strength of the password. Now, this is going to be a very beginner-friendly project. It's going to be quite short. It's going to be quite simple. So I think all of you guys should be able to follow along. And I think it's a good, simple project to get started with if you're a beginner Python programmer. So let us get right into it. We're going to start by importing the string module, because the string module is going to provide us the set that we're going, or the sets that we're going to need to check for the existence of certain characters. So for example, if we have a password called hello world, we only have lowercase letters in this password. Now, how do we find that out? How can we check if, or how can we check how many different types of characters we have in that password? Now, one way would be to just iterate through each character and then have booleans for the different types, but I think a better way is to use list comprehensions. So what we can do here is we can say uppercase, indicating either yes or no. And what we do here is we say list comprehension and then 1, indicating yes or existent, if C is in string dot uppercase or ASCII uppercase for C in password. So, or did I forget something here? Yeah, else 0. Or was it, no, I think it was if C in that and then else 0 for C in password. Yeah. So essentially, let me just see if I'm not blocking this. I'm not, okay. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm going through all the characters in the password, and for each of them I'm checking if they're contained in ASCII uppercase, and if they're contained I add a 1, otherwise 0 for each position. So the ASCII uppercase, if you want to print that real quick, is a collection of all uppercase characters, at least, oh, I forgot the string, at least in ASCII. So we have A to Z here, as you can see. And essentially we're going through all the characters, and if they're contained in there, we add a 1. So in this case, we're going to have only zeros, but if I change the W here to uppercase, for example, and then I print the uppercase result, this is going to be a list full of zeros and 1, 1. Now, what we want to have here is we only want to have a single 1. So at least one of the positions has to have a 1, or has to be a 1, and then we know that an uppercase character is contained in the password. So all we need to do is we need to apply the any function onto that, and this is going to then return 1 or 0. So in this case, it's going to return 1 or true. And if I change this to lowercase again, this is going to return false because there are only zeros in the list. And now we're going to do this for all the character types. So we're going to change this to lowercase. We're going to change this to special, and we're going to change this to digits. And in here we're going to say then string dot ASCII lowercase, string dot punctuation, I think, and then string dot digits. Now, there are probably better and more efficient ways to do that, because here we're iterating 4 times, so there's definitely a better way to do that in one loop, for example. But I think just to understand the concept, this is a more eloquent way of writing it. It's a little bit more, you can see what's happening more easily. So what you could also do is you can just have one loop, and then depending on the type of character, you could just add up some variables so you wouldn't have to iterate multiple times. But I think when the password has, like, I don't know, a maximum of 100 characters, shouldn't be a big deal here. So what we also want to have is we want to have the length of the password. This is quite simple. This is just len of password. And then we can start with the score. So the score is going to be 0, and we're going to have a collection of the characters here. So indicating which characters are existent. So uppercase, lowercase, special, and digits. By the way, special is, let me print that real quick. Special is string.punctuation, and this includes a lot of special characters. So basically all of these here. I don't think that there's anything missing here that we could add to the password necessarily. At least I don't have a password that contains any other special characters than these. So we're going to remove that now. Essentially what we want to have now is we want to have certain criteria. So which things increase the score by 1 or by 2. And I think that a very basic idea is to have, okay, if the length of the password, if the length is larger or greater than 8, we can add a point, because I think 8 is like the minimum. If you have more than 8 characters, we can add +1 to the score. Then we can also, I triggered a Vim binding here. Otherwise, or not otherwise, in addition to that, if the length is also above 12, for example, we can add 1 more point, plus equals 1, and we can do that a couple of times. So by doing that, if we have a length of 14, for example, it's going to add 1 because it's more than 8, and 1 more because it's greater than 12, so we would have 2 points. If it's just 11, we would get 1 point, and we can do that a couple of times here. So if the length is greater than, I don't know, 17, for example, we can say score plus equals 1, and then last but not least, let's say if the length is even more than 20 characters, you can choose the values on your own. We're going to add 1 more. So this is for the length. Now, one thing that we really want to make sure here is that we don't have a common password, because it doesn't matter how long the password is, how complex it is. If it is contained in a commonly used password list, it's useless. So I have a list here. I just have to find it in the prepared files here. So I'm copying it. By the way, you can download any common password list. What you do essentially is, oh, please don't open this here. What you do essentially is you go to Google and you type something like common passwords list, and then you type file type txt, and this will give you a couple of results that you can use. Essentially, I have a list now with 1 million passwords or something, or 10 million passwords. And what we want to do is we want to check if the password is inside of that list, because if it is part of that list, it's basically useless because we can crack it with a simple dictionary attack. So what we want to do is we want to say with open, and the file in my case is named common.txt. Open this in reading mode as f, and then common equals f read split lines like that. And then essentially if the password is contained in the common list, then we can print password was found in a common list, score 0 out of, I don't know what we're going to end up with. Let's do 7 for now. So this is then the max score. We have to calculate what the max score is, so the maximum possible score. But we definitely want to exit here, because if a password is contained in there, it's useless. So I think if we run this right now, we should already get this message, because I think hello world is definitely contained in there. At least that would be my guess. There you go. Password was found in a common list. Now, if I choose some random stuff here, this should not be contained in the list. So you can see it was not contained in a list, but something like password 123 is pretty sure that this is part of the list. There you go, was found in a common list. So this is a nice way to not only look at the length and the diversification of the characters, but also look, is the password easily crackable using a simple common passwords list. So you don't want to have that. If that is the case, 0 out of 7, because I can crack it instantly, basically. All right, so essentially we covered the length, we covered the commonality. Now what we can do here is we can print a message. We can say, okay, password length is, and then basically make it an F string. It's basically the string length. And then we can say adding, and then we can say string score points. All right, and then we're going to look at the diversification of the characters. So how many different types of characters do we have here? And basically for that, we can choose this characters list because remember we have zeros and ones indicating if they are present. So if we take the sum of this list, we would have the different types or the amount of the different types. So essentially all we need to do is we need to say if sum of characters is larger than 1, then we can increase the score by 1. So if we have at least 2 types, so uppercase and lowercase characters or uppercase and numbers, for example, we're going to add 1 point to the score. If we only have 1, we're going to add 0. If we have more than 2, we're going to add 1 more to the score. And if we have even more than 3, we're going to add 1 more to the score. And finally, we can, first of all, add another print message. So f password has, and then how do we do that now? String of sum of characters, different character types, adding, and then basically str sum characters -1. Because if we have 3 character types, we only get 2 points. There you go. And then last but not least, we can calculate the final score. So we can say, okay, if the final score, everything combined, basically, if it's less than 4, the password is quite weak. So we can say print the password is quite weak, score, and then str score. And how many points can we have? 1, 2, 3, actually 7. Okay, so we can say out of 7, and then we can say elif if the score is exactly 4, for example. Then we can say, okay, it's fine, but it's not good. We can say the password is okay. And yeah, there you go. And then elif the score is larger or greater than 4. And the score is also less than 6. Then we can say the password is pretty good or decent, we can say. Something like that, pretty good. And then elif if the score is larger or greater than 6, then we can say that the password is strong. So if that makes sense or not for you, you have to decide that. First of all, what does it want here? Simplified chain comparison. Oh yeah, sure, we can do it like that as well. So you have to decide if this makes sense for you. You can customize the whole script, but essentially this now checks for our criteria. Now, in order to reach a 6, you would have to basically have a very long password with very diverse characters that's also not part of the common password list. But let's just run this. Now, this is not a good password, but let's say neural9 is great. Now, we only have lowercase characters here, so this should not be a pretty strong password. It has quite weak score, 2 out of 7. Now, the length is 17, so we got 2 points for that. I mean, that's actually on the boundary, so if we say neural9 YT is great, then we would get probably 3 points, but still quite weak because, yeah, obviously just lowercase characters. Let's try with something else. Neural9 rocks, and then 999. This should be quite good. So we see pretty good, 5 out of 7. And if I really want to get like a very strong password, I would have to say something like neural9, and then rocks 999, and then hello world, like that. So this is a very long and complicated password, diverse password. So in this case, we get 7 out of 7. A very simple thing, if you want to add your own password here, you can also just type input, enter the password, and then if we run this here, we're going to be able to enter it right here. So hello world is found in the list, so it's basically useless. Now, what else could we find in the list? Maybe I don't know, maybe John Smith. Let's see if John Smith is in the password list. There you go, it is. Maybe if I go John Smith 007. Okay, it's not found in the password list, but still a weak password. Or maybe Agent 007 was found in a common list. So you can see that actually quite a lot of passwords are found in a common list. So this is a very important criteria. You don't want to find your password in a commonly used password list. So you want to have a unique password. But this is how you build a simple password strength checking tool in Python. So that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.